Hey, I'm Brody Brazil, and welcome to Teal Town After Dark.
Thanks so much, Brody. Good evening, everyone. It is May 17th, 2019, and it's all even up, folks. The Sharks are now tied up with the St. Louis Blues 2-2. I don't think the Blues handed this game to them, but we'll have further discussion about all that and then some on this edition of Teal Town After Dark. As always, this is your live and interactive Sharks post-game show. We do this following each and every San Jose Sharks playoff game, home and away. So, of course, if you want to be a part of the show, multiple ways to interact with us, chat with us and fellow Sharks fans, and probably very happy Blues fans in the YouTube chat on the page or the app. Use the hashtag tealtownusa, and of course follow us at tealtownusa. Joining me this evening on this edition, Mr. Erik Landi.
Oh boy, I don't know if I can top that very facetious intro there, handing the Sharks the game. But Puck Guy, it's good to see you. It's good to see that you're in the land of the living, and it feels like it's been forever since we've been on a podcast together.
It's been a while. I mean, a lot of things going on with work and such, but it's good to have the Eriks back together. And it's good.
United, and it feels so good.
Well, it doesn't feel too good. Let's be honest here. I mean, come on. What I'm also going to do is we will have a friend of ours, David Okimoto, sometimes known as the Superfly. He sits usually up at perch 212 in the Shark Tank. He was going to Game 4 in St. Louis tonight, so we might have a check-in live from Enterprise Center. But before we get into the recap of this game, Landi, is it me? And I'm going to stand up because even though this isn't the Win It for Jumbo shirt that you should buy at tealtownusa.com, is it me or is it San Jose versus everybody? And what I mean by that, I mean Yahoo Sports. I mean Damian Cox. I mean
ESPN.
Wish, which I love, but it's quite interesting to see that that the media has now turned on San Jose and balanced broadcasting, I guess, is now kind of gone out the window a little bit.
Yeah, it seems like we've got our check-in. How you doing, David? You're on.
Go ahead, David.
David.
Hi, David. So tell us about the atmosphere despite this loss tonight at the Enterprise Center.
How was it out there?
I
wish. I think we're going to have to get him back on the line. It's a little tough. Oh, sorry.
All right. Well, we'll let him go. Well, we'll have to mute him on a little bit there.
Yeah. No, I mean, we were going back to the media coverage and yeah, I mean, to say there's some salt out there would be putting it mildly. Buckeye?
Yep. It's one of those things where you want to have some officiating going on or some, balanced comments, but we see this from Greg Wyshynski, and feeling disrespected that your team gets lucky. Let's see, what else can we throw in here? I think we had we even had Damian Cox, formerly of Sportsnet, coming up with this tough period for the Sharks. Received no support whatsoever from the officiating staff. Can't expect them to be successful under circumstances. In fact, Jamie Baker, during the game, tweeted to him, Damian, really, you are better than that. I guarantee you haven't watched every Sharks game. Wow, you are following the crowd. Never thought I'd see it from you, from your friend Bakes. I mean, that's
Yeah,
that's
no,
two prime examples of that one, folks.
yeah, and I don't want to make this about this is not about officiating to me. This is more about getting some opinions that quite frankly are not easy to capture. So what I mean by that is these are all easy takes. I mean, this is low-hanging fruit, and it seems like the media doesn't want to go through and actually, dissect each individual call. They want to dissect the call within a vacuum.
Speaking of vacuums, I think someone needs to keep the dogs quiet. So with that, let's get on to the recap of this game. What we did see tonight was Marcus Sorensen get back into the lineup for Michael Haley, along with Melker Karlsson staying on the third line there. But unfortunately, this kind of had that feeling to the Vegas game in that aspect. 35 seconds in, Barbashev gets credit for the goal, and it looks like it went off of Nyquist and in to make it 1-0 St. Louis. Absolutely the perfect start for the Blues in this one.
Yeah. I mean, Barbashev just kind of goes to the net, and the Sharks let in one in the first minute, and really, I think that was probably the most egregious mistake of the entire game, and it just happened to be within that first minute of play, and it really kind of hemmed the Sharks in, because you knew that the Blues were coming, going to come on strong, and we could all feel that they were going to be in a real sour mood because of that play in game 3. So you knew that this was coming, and quite frankly, it could have been 5-1 after, like, let's say the halfway period of period 1.
Yeah, in the way that they were, yeah, the way that they were coming on was just absolutely insane. To be quite honest, they were coming out for blood, and rightfully so. They felt that that they got hosed, and you know what? To be honest, rightfully so. But sometimes you just can't let that happen to you. But we move onward. Let's moving onward again. 5:09. Kind of a parade to the penalty box was what I was kind of expecting on this night, but it wasn't as much as I thought it would be. But at 5:09, Brendan Dillon, he was tripped up before the play, and that kind of just was like, tripping's fine in the NHL tonight. But then he gets called for holding the stick to set up a St. Louis power play, which didn't do anything.
And let's quickly talk about that holding the stick. Boy, he sure did lose a grip on the stick really easily. That's all I'm going to say about that one. I mean, because instantly it seemed like once he felt Dillon's hand on his stick, he just dropped it.
Yeah.
And I mean, good sell job by the Blue there. But, that if you're going to call that holding the stick, then again, I expect 10 to 15 power plays per game. So, yeah, you thought that there might be some of this, some tentativeness to have the referees kind of intervene. Everybody's kind of on pins and needles right now, especially if you're wearing black and white. So, you figured it was going to be a little bit more of a tentative called game. But boy, howdy, that one was, I did not see much there.
Yeah, it was a little iffy on there, but you got to play through it. You have to have that resiliency. You have to find a way to get it done. And unfortunately, another iffy call goes the way at 17:44. Timo Meier takes a hooking call as he's trying to stick lift O'Reilly's stick to get the puck. That sets up a St. Louis power play. And of course, they score 9 seconds later. They credit Tyler Bozak for his 4th of the playoffs on the power play from Maroon and Tarasenko. But again, this kind of goes off the Shark.
Yeah, that one was the one to me that was the most egregious. oh boy, I did not see much there. I really didn't. I mean, yeah, Timo had his stick on the his stick on stick first, and then it kind of rode up into the hand, and maybe was there for a split second. I mean, I've definitely seen that not called in the Stanley Cup playoffs so far, and I've rarely seen that particular call, go that way. So I don't know. It just seems like we go back and forth on whether we're going to be overly calling things and overly extending things and making it like regular season hockey
Right.
versus the next game where it's okay, a free for all. And again, I'm not talking individual calls. Yeah, we don't like them, and that's going to be the way that it goes. But I'm just strictly talking about consistency in the way things are called, right? And so it's either, again, you have 10 power plays a game, or you have like two, right? And so again, they need to have some kind of symposium on this. They need to have some kind of powwow or whatever you want to call it, but they need to figure out what they're going to go moving forward. Is this going to be a game where you're going to allow the Mitch Marners and the Johnny Gaudreaus of the world to get their calls because of sticks on hands, or are we going to go back to 2004? Pre-lockout where you're getting clutching and grabbing and that kind of muck it up style, which personally I love that style. The more that we have clutching and grabbing and more physicality, that's the way that I like to see it. Yeah. And generally enjoy hockey much more seeing it that way. But we can't have this where it's one night to one night, crew to crew is different. And that's what I'm seeing. And to me, that is the most jarring thing I think I've seen in these playoffs is we just haven't settled on a standard.
Yeah. And that's the tough part, and not just for one team, but for everyone. It's one of those, it's trying to figure it out. And when you can't figure it out, that's what's going to cost you in the long run, because you're going to be like, well, that wasn't a penalty, in the Vegas series. That was a penalty in Colorado. But I digress. I don't want to get into a fishing, but AJ kind of hits it on the head here. After tonight's officiating, can we put the refs want the Sharks to win argument to bed?
Yeah, you know what? And I mean, if anything, if people want to wear the tinfoil hats, they're going to favor whoever's losing the series, right? Because if it really is what we think it is, they're going to want ratings, right? And the more games you have, the more ratings you have. So
and with Boston finishing off early, they're going to need as many ratings as they possibly get.
Right. And that would be what my devil's advocate play would be. But I don't think so. I just think that it is really the difference between crew to crew. And I think that's why we're seeing so much inconsistency. But having said that, again, there is part of me that really just wants to scream from a mountain that there are other teams playing the games, right? They're in that Vegas series, they had the stranglehold, right? And everybody is boiling it down. I mean, even we go to social media, we go to the official social media of Vegas, they are still complaining about this, but yet we don't want to speak about how and why that moment is so magnified. And it's because they blew a 3-1 series lead. Okay, that's series 1. Series 2 with Colorado, to me, that one is more for Colorado fans. To me, that one was more of a hack job, so to speak. If I was a Colorado fan, I would definitely be upset with how that went down.
Yeah.
And now,
go ahead. I was just going to read some chats, but go ahead and finish what you were going to say, and then we'll jump onward.
Right. And so now we move into the St. Louis series, and you know what? I didn't like the way that we won Game 3. I thought it was kind of a cheap way to win, and I would have liked to have seen skill versus skill, and it really did blemish a good game. It really did. So to me, I have all the sympathy in the world for St. Louis fans, because as Sharks fans, we definitely know that. Remember Stanchion goal, remember Rafi Torres on Milan Mahalik. There's just I get you. I get you. I really do. So
Yeah.
the question is then going forward, what are we going to do about this? And I think the best responses that I've heard so far is, let's have the TV monitor ref, whether that be in Toronto or whether that be on site. I preferably, if you already have a video goal judge who's part of the series crew, he should be watching the monitors as well, and with almost real time, instantaneously, he could say if something was missed or not. And it's basically just having that eye in the sky ref, and he can only be there, as for pointing out egregious things. Everything else is going to remain with the crew on the ice. That's, to me, the best way to handle this. I even think take coaches' challenges off the table, and retract the offsides challenges, and retract goaltender interference, and just have the eye in the sky officiating. And they would be the ones to call the egregious, Matt Duchene's of the world going 9 feet offsides, or because we have gotten this down to where it's taking hours to complete a hockey game because of 10-minute reviews.
Well,
So
and there was a tweet from one of our former colleagues, a boy in his team, saying, we would be upset about all the calls, and one of the biggest ones would be 2016, when Pavelski got pushed into Rene to score that overtime goal or not in Game 4 against Nashville, and nobody was complaining about that too much. But now that this has happened to one team, 3 different scenarios, it's like, oh, we need to change things up. So with that, let's move on onward to here. Recap the first period. Shots were 10-9 in favor of St. Louis in that one. St. Louis would go 1 for 2 on the power play. Face-offs, Sharks were in favor 55-45 in that one. They had some rough breakouts. St. Louis was really pressuring them with almost like a full ice press, and of course the Sharks can't help themselves by goofing around on that. But second period,
I mean, basically from what I was seeing, they were running basically a 1-3-1, basically stacking 3 guys through the neutral zone to really stymie the Sharks going through. I think that's how they have to play, because if the Sharks get ahead of a full head of steam going through the neutral zone, they create a lot of plays on the rush. So good on St. Louis for adjusting, because that really, really iced the Sharks in that first period. So, they kind of had this hybrid 1-3-1 where they've got basically 3 guys stacked in the middle, in the neutral zone, but that back end defenseman in the one portion of it kind of flew a little bit higher. So it almost looked like you had 4 men basically pressing on their blue line to make sure that any kind of breakouts by the Sharks were disrupted in the neutral zone. Yeah.
And it's tough, and you have to find a way somehow, and that's where intermission will come in and have adjustments. And I think the Sharks did that in the second period. They came out firing. They came out definitely with a lot of more scoring chances, and kept peppering Binnington, and Binnington was up to the task. I mean, as much as he's kind of become the McKinnon of this round for the broadcasters. I mean, he has played a solid game 4, turning away a bunch of chances, but unfortunately, at 5:41, Blaise gets called for hooking. It was Hurdle. The ref will likely get fired for that. It sets up the Sharks' first power play, and if you can hear it faintly in the distance, you can hear AJ beating his power play drum.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, the power play coming into tonight, one road power play in the playoffs. I mean, my goodness, Christian Ruiz, fun for DVD box set for Dizzy to binge up on old Deal Town USA to hear old rants. Dizzy, do yourself a favor, hit the subscribe button. We still have all of our shows from back in 2015 as we were doing that. So by all means, check it out. And of course, do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We do this after every single San Jose Sharks game, and we appreciate every single fan joining us. So I really appreciate it for sure. Justin, also thank you for your donation. We'll get to that about how the how gambling sites did refund people in that one. Like, oh
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. No, and so let's talk about the power play, because right now this thing is sucking the life right out of their play. Literally, they're getting on the power play and they're handing momentum back to the Blues because it is so dysfunctional right now. And to me, the dysfunction kind of started when they elevated Carlson to that first unit and took Burns off so they could put Burns with Jumbo on the second unit. And they still have not figured out yet what they want to do, rolling out either Burns or Carlson. And so we're kind of getting left to figure out, okay, what are you going to do? The other guy that really needs to step up on the power play, but besides, Hurdle, is LeBanc. Besides Game 7, he's been missing in action on that point. And so to me, it almost maybe it's time to bring Jumbo back up to the first unit. And maybe, I know that he's kind of getting slow, but him, Pavelski, and Burns together, very lethal combination. And especially when you put Hurdle up there with them, because Hurdle loves playing with Jumbo. And, you go from there. But honestly, something's got to be done with it. And the Blues are doing too good of a job stymieing them through the neutral zone again. Entries are just, ugly, fugly, dare I say it, because they're basically having to dump and chase. They're not bringing in the puck with the man, and again, reliant on the dump and chase. And every time they do that, it seems like there are two St. Louis Blues who are back in the zone who are able to get that dump and chase and then just dump it right out and then get a change, and Sharks try the entry again. So yeah,
that's something they have to work on between now and noon. And that's another thing. It's not the 48 hours or the 45 hours that they get. No, this is more, 40 hours with a flight from St. Louis back to the Bay Area with a noon start time on Sunday. Something that the Sharks rarely did. And if they did, it was like a 1:00 start before a Barracuda game later that night. So that's going to be an interesting wrinkle to Sunday. But back to tonight, at 8:24, Vlasic tries to poke the puck out, and for that matter, we've seen that 2014 Game 6. Alex Stalock had that happen to him, and it ended up being a goal. And then we saw shenanigans all over the place. We saw Tarasenko give a two-hander to Vlasic's stick. We saw Shen rough up. We saw a couple of other Blues players get in there and everything. And personally, the whistle to me didn't blow before the Vlasic pinch in. But for some reason, at 8:24, Marc-Edouard Vlasic gets slashing on Bennington, which wasn't getting called originally. And then Shen gets roughing to make it, as Randy Hahn would say, the always exciting 4-on-4 play.
Yeah, and so I kind of want to talk to you about this, because it seemed like there was a quite a bit, at least a minute, interlude of the referees coming together and trying to figure out what they were going to do. and it looked like one of the refs was vehement that the Blues player was to blame here, but then the backside ref is kind of saying, oh well, I didn't know what you were putting your hand up for, so I decided to put my hand up because I saw something on Vlasic, whereas the original call was going to just be to the Blues player, and I think it was Bouwmeester with the extra shot on Vlasic at the very end in the pileup. So okay, again, you got to roll with the punches or whatever. And that 4-on-4 was the best that the Sharks looked for the entire game. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, that's how their power play should operate. Because basically, St. Louis had all of their players there. I mean, it was 4-on-4, but the Sharks put on a clinic. I mean, with literally maybe a minute 45 worth of zone time and minute 30, worth of zone time. So, I just don't understand why the mentality shifts when they're up a guy. It almost seems like they let off the gas when they've got that extra man. They kind of like take a breath, and then try to get the power play rolling. But that 4-on-4, I mean, again, it's the best that the Sharks looked all game.
Yep. AJ, you have jumped in to the request of many in the chat. Good evening, sir. What would you like to add on to the proceedings this evening?
No, with regards to what you guys are talking about, it was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Vlasic gets a call for roughing, or I'm sorry, for slashing Bennington when all he did was, like, as he was skating by Bennington, put his stick down towards his glove, hoping that puck might pop out. Like, we see that play literally 1,000 times a game, but for some reason tonight, that's a slash. Okay, sure. And then Schenn gets called for roughing Vlasic. Yeah, okay, because there was a whole little brouhaha in the corner, yet Tarasenko with a full-blown two-handed hack tomahawk job gets nothing. What should have been a 5-on-3 ended up being a 4-on-4. Okay.
Right, you're talking about Tarasenko at the very, kind of like at the latter stage of that, right?
No, it wasn't at the latter stage of it. You go back and you look at the replay. Vlasic is cutting right in front of Bennington, gets his stick, takes a one-handed bare-ass swipe at Bennington's glove. As he's skating by the front of the crease, Tarasenko sees that, turns around, takes a two-handed slash hack at Vlasic. That doesn't get called, but then Vlasic, as he's towards the corner, all of a sudden a bunch of Blues descend upon him. That's where Schenn picks up the roughing.
Shoot, I thought Bouwmeester could have also gotten one there, right?
Dude,
Because
there were like 3 Blues right there that could have gotten called for something. And the one to me that was the most egregious was Tarasenko taking a two-handed. If Tarasenko lifts it up and basically half-asses a swipe at Vlasic the way that Vlasic half-ass swiped at Bennington,
yeah,
I got no problems with it. I look at that and I go, hey, you take a little, you give a little. The fact that Tarasenko went full two-hand tomahawk chop and nothing was called on that, I look at that and I'm going, okay, can we put the bed the whole the refs are in it for the Sharks bullshit narrative? Can we put that to bed at some point? I mean,
no, I'm totally with you there.
I have lost an amazing amount of respect for guys like Greg Wyshynski, who have posted on social media, Bar Down, who used to, for the most part, be a unbiased source of information. And you see the stuff that both of them have put out over the last couple of games. Even Yahoo Sports NHL, I'm surprised Yahoo is still in business, to be honest with you. But to see those 3 accounts,
yep,
all of them verified, go full bias over the last 24 to 48 hours. And then tonight, the best part was Yahoo putting out an incredibly biased tweet with a picture of Peter DeBoer talking about how lucky the Sharks have been. And then when they get called out, they delete it. And then about over the next 5 minutes, they get called out for deleting the tweet that proved their bias. And then they ended up reposting it. It's like, dude, you guys lost so much credibility in like 5 minutes. It's insane. And what's so funny about that, which we pointed out on Twitter, is the whole idea of, let's blame the officials for the Sharks being lucky. It makes me wonder, did Yahoo blame the officials for Google being lucky? Makes me wonder. Makes me wonder. So I see that kind of horse shit, and it's like, look, I think after you can look at game 3 and then you can look at game 4 and sit there and go, you know what? The refs are in it for nobody. They get shit wrong for every game. There's going to be some games where they get it wrong for your team most of the time. There's going to be times where they get it wrong for the opposing team most of the time. But that's just the way it is. Welcome to sports, people. Welcome to friggin' sports. This is the way that it happens.
Yeah, and it's the way that it's always happened. I mean, it's the way that it has been for years in baseball. You know, it's the way that it has been for years in the NFL, and that's what happens when you're reliant upon human referees. And that's honestly, I mean, it makes it fun to watch. You know, it makes for good drama. But again, every time we get some kind of egregious miss, we tend to overcorrect, right? And this season, definitely for sure, we are seeing how much the basically the coach's challenges is slowing down the game. So we got to find the happy medium, right?
But did the officials from game 3 call game 4?
No, they did not. And
so where's the overcorrection coming from?
No, I'm talking about overcorrection as far as every time we have an egregious play like a Matt Duchene, the NHL overcorrects by implementing the current challenge system.
No, but I'm talking about, I mean, Kuhre called it out before this game even started. Kuhre called it out on Twitter. He basically said, hey, everybody, tonight's the game that we're going to see all the makeup calls, and Jesus Christ, if he wasn't right. I mean, you look at the first 2 calls, there was a call on Dylan where I'm sitting there gifting the game. I could not find where the hold that they called on Dylan. I saw Dylan get tripped, but I couldn't find Dylan holding. And then they call Meyer for hooking when he didn't hook. He lifted the guy's stick. You can see it in the video, but that gets called. So, but Kuhre called it in that it's insane. And that really goes to show that the NHL, when it comes to this type of stuff, for lack of a better word, there needs to be an audit. There needs to be something looked at and reviewed with all of this. The fact that Kuhre could come out, and I'm sure other fans did it too, but there were Sharks fans literally going into this game going, well, the Sharks probably don't have much of a chance because they're going to get a whole bunch of makeup calls for the Blues. And it is exactly what goddamn happened tonight. Exactly.
Well, I mean, it's the dirty little secret in the NHL that we don't want to talk about, but it goes back to the game management moniker that the NHL referees have gotten for years and years and years, right? It's game management. It's not putting one team too much of an advantage on another. Okay, overcorrecting if they make an egregious call. And so, again, I mean, I don't know what any fan expects is going to happen, because we all know that going into it that this is what happens.
Yeah, no, I get that, but this is also the case of with, and I'm seeing in the chat here that Kurt is saying, "Welcome to our world in Game 3." Exactly, it goes back and forth, and I'm fine with that. But sometimes, like, a call is a call is a call. I don't care if it was done in preseason, regular season, postseason. And in fact, you look at Pete Carroll, the coach of the Seattle Seahawks. He straight up was caught on mic telling his secondary, hold on every play, push on every play. Do it because the officials will not call it every time because they want to keep the game going. So just keep doing it because they're not going to call you every single play. And you see that type of thing going on and on and on. And yeah, it's maddening tonight. Now, again, I go back to earlier in the game. The call on Dylan, that was just a straight up phantom call. Show me the video. If you show me the video where he actually held Sundqvist, I'm right there with you. I'll go, okay, you know what? I didn't see that angle. You're right. But I'm sitting there, I'm watching the NBCS sports feed, I'm watching the Sportsnet sports feed. I cannot find this call. Yet there's 20,000 cameras doing 18,000 replays. I can't find it. But I do have 18 different camera angles of Brendan Dillon being tripped at that same point. Then with the Meyer thing where he gets called for hooking O'Reilly. When we see that play preseason, regular season, 20 times in postseason, that never gets called. For some reason tonight, that one time it got called. Now, maybe the official, he's at a different angle. To him, it looks like a hook. Okay, sure, fine. But, like, dudes, like, there's just so many other things going on. Maybe we need an eye up in the sky. That's fine. But the point, the fact of the matter is, the bottom line point here is enough with blaming officials. That's it. Like, I want to put a moratorium on talking about officiating now. Like, this is it. Like, from now until the rest of the season, however long it goes, no more talk about the officiating. Between game 3 and game 4, I think both sides, whether you're a Blues fan or a Sharks fan or whatever, you easily have more than enough evidence to make a case that the officials are not in it for anybody. If it was about ratings, every series would go 7 games. Nobody would be swept. Like, none of that. Let's put the tinfoil away, get rid of the conspiracy bullshit, and let's just play some hockey.
No, I totally agree there with you, AJ. I mean, again, we talk about it evening out in the end. To me, I think the only thing that I will continue to kind of keep harping on is just this easy narrative that's being spoken by the media. It's the easy narrative that
it's lazy journalism.
Yeah, it's lazy journalism. Exactly. And I want to say that there was, I think it was Sean Leahy on Yahoo put out a great article, and it was saying how, you know what, these bad calls were in the favor of the Sharks. That is 100% true, but you still had to have a team execute on those bad calls, right? And that, to me, that is somebody who is doing his job, going through and going, okay, yeah, the fact of the matter is a call did swing the Sharks' way, but it also takes another team collapsing and a team executing on those when they do happen. So
you mean the refs weren't the goaltenders and penalty killers that allowed 4 power play goals?
Oh, I know, right?
Oh my God. Okay, let's get off the refs. Some days you're the windshield, some days you're the bug. That's no matter what sport you play. That's the way it is.
No, and again, I think the point that Kuhre is trying to make, though, is just the media coverage, right? And just, again, lazy narratives, lazy
clickbait.
Yeah, clickbait, and it's infuriating. As a Sharks fan, I think we can sit here and we can go, wow. I mean, when shit happens to us, like, it seems to get magnified somehow, whether it's good or bad, right?
Yeah,
it's because we own the internet in the South Bay. That's right.
Yeah, right.
All right, so
yeah, okay. The second period ended, and then we get the line blender. Dylan high sticks Maroon, and Maroon checks for blood, even though he didn't get hit in the face. He got hit in the shoulder, as video evidence would prove, blah, blah, blah. 6:01, Pietrangelo interferes with Kane. Solid call. That's what it was. 6:48, Hurdle on the power play, finally ending the streak of game 4s where the Sharks would get shut out. Thank God. I mean, the Sharks certainly had enough looks and enough opportunities to tie this game and potentially take the lead. They didn't take advantage of it. you know, I look at all the goals in this one, and I really have a hard time faulting Jones for either of those.
No, he was stellar. I mean, because when the Sharks basically pressed in the second and then third period, he'd go minutes without seeing a shot on goal, and then he'd have a grade A scoring chance come back the other way on the rush from St. Louis and would just be Johnny on the spot. So Jones kept them in it, especially in that first period when it was just total onslaught by St. Louis.
It was, but it would be remiss of us not to point out that the Sharks return to their old habits, which die hard, of letting in a goal in the first 5 minutes of a game. And so far, you know, this is not me taking any type of you know, the putting, whether you want to say that I'm putting teal tinted glasses on or off. This is just stats, people. There's a few people on Twitter that need to learn that, by the way. Sometimes when you just post something that is a stat, it's not biased. It just is what it is. It's just a friggin' stat. So maybe educate yourself when it comes to that. But when it comes to Jones so far in these playoffs, now I haven't looked at tonight's number, but I've seen the previous 3 games. It's been 905, 846, 875. I tend to doubt that tonight was much better than a 905, if that. We are getting
909.
909. Okay, well, I'm a little surprised by that. But you take in the 4 games that Martin Jones has had versus St. Louis, and that averages out to about 880 or so. That is not going to get it done. That is not going to get you a Stanley Cup, people. Those are not good numbers. Where is the Martin Jones that like figured his shit out on the bus after Vegas game 4? I am hoping that Martin Jones is on the bus right now in St. Louis figuring shit out, because he was money games 5, 6, and 7 against Vegas, the entire series versus Colorado. You'd be loath to find a single bad goal Martin Jones let in versus Colorado. And even games 1 and 2, you might find one, but still Jones has been money. And it's, you can't blame Jones when you only put up 1 goddamn goal. So, but still, I want to know where that Martin Jones is. I mean, he's been good.
So you're looking for the guy that
put up 58 saves,
right? That makes a spectacular save when he's dead to rights, and kind of makes that magical save that propels you. And look, I mean, has Martin Jones ever been that guy? I think to a certain extent he has at points, and especially in the run in 2016 was very instrumental. And so far he's been pedestrian. I would say he's been pedestrian in the Blues, the totality of the Blues series. Yeah,
versus the
Blues.
He's done enough on a couple of games to win, and I'm fine with that. I do think he came up with some key saves in game 1, came up with some key saves in game 2 and in game 3, had some key saves tonight. Again, when you look at how much offensive firepower this Sharks squad has, it's a little inexcusable to only put in 1 goal. But then again, we're talking about a Sharks team a couple days ago where Logan Couture was literally the only offensive power that this team had, getting the only 2 goals for the Sharks. And, I'm not going to get into it now. I'll get into it on the Pucknologists that wraps up round 3. But holy crap, do I have a lot to say about Erik Karlsson. And I'm not the only one. I am not if you listen to NHL on Sirius, if you listen to some other places, a lot of people, a lot of talk about Erik Karlsson, just saying. And
I mean, his agent Don Meehan was on, I believe it was TVA, and he was speaking about very candidly about Erik Karlsson, saying that the Sharks knew he was going in playing hurt, basically trying to.
I don't give a shit about whether he's playing hurt. or anything like that. Like everybody play. You think Pavelski isn't goddamn hurt? You think Couture isn't hurt? No. My issue with Erik Karlsson is the fact that he shies away from any sort of anything resembling physical contact. Like you can give Erik Karlsson credit for scoring the overtime goal in game 3. What the hell is a defenseman doing in that position when he gets it, 3 feet away from the paint? You're a fucking defenseman and you're 3 feet out of the paint. What are you doing? And he is somebody put it, I think it was on NHL on Sirius, put it perfectly, had the perfect description about Erik Karlsson. They said when you watch him in a game, he is terrifying for everybody in the stands, whether you're rooting for the team that he's on or you're rooting for the team that he's playing against. He is terrifying because you have no idea what he's going to do, but he's an offenseman playing defense. And he plays defense poorly. The thing about him, and we talked about this months ago, at least I did, he can outskate some mistakes because he is fast, but he makes a lot of poor decisions. He puts way too much mustard on his passes when they don't need to be. You don't need to pass it at 80 miles an hour when 45 will get you there, and it's a better pass. And so and there was an interview with somebody today that was on Twitter. I think we retweeted it, but they basically said that their smart money is Erik Karlsson's going to be playing for the Rangers
or Tampa Bay
or for the Lightning because he's best buds with Hedman, another Norris Trophy winner.
Or Henrik.
So he's going to be there. And you know what? I don't have a problem with that. You look at the amount of money that he's going to command. Fine. Let New York's was going to have the cap room. Go ahead. So throw all that money at him. I would much rather see Meyer and LeBanc and whether Hurdle gets. I know Hurdle has a couple more years on his deal, and God, what a fucking steal that is right now. But you're also going to have to make decisions on Pavelski. You're going to have to make a decision on Thornton. There's a lot of things. I would rather you be able to make those decisions up front rather than predicating everything in your mind on what you're going to do, all based upon the actions of this prima donna who doesn't want to get who doesn't like contact, who doesn't want to play defense. So that's my rant, people.
No, I can definitely understand where you're coming from because he has been playing very tentatively. The thing that I keep going back to though is this a symptom or is this a cause? Right? Is this a symptom of his play, or is this because of an injury? No, I mean I'm serious. I mean, look, there are few. I mean, it is a rarity to have 2 Norris winning defensemen, arguably 3, be able to roll out on basically separate defensive pairings. And
I would instead of having 2 Burns and a Vlasic, give me 2 Vlasics and a Burns.
Yeah, no, I agree. You'll look at the assets given up. You'll look at what has happened in the totality of his time here in San Jose, and I just think that, to be frank, I don't think he's going to get what he wants on the open market. And so I think if you can get him in at, say, an $8 million or a $9 million salary versus the 11 or 12 he was going to command prior to this season, I think you still gotta sign him. I really do. And
to be AJ, my thing is, when did he hurt his groin?
He hurt his groin in December.
In December, okay. What was the excuse before
I thought it was
then?
February when
he injured his groin. Then he injured his. Well, no, remember it had to have been something in December because remember he didn't go to he went to the All-Star games,
right.
But that was the only thing he did.
Yeah, because he re-aggravated it,
and then he re-aggravated. But my whole thing is
pylon one thing.
Okay, so he injured his groin at the end of November or beginning of December, whenever the hell it was. Okay, what was the excuse for October and November? Why did he suck then? It's
Well,
like, oh, his adjustment period? The fuck out of here. This guy's getting to, you know, ridiculous millions of dollars. He's a Norris winning trophy, and you're going to tell me it's going to take him 6 weeks to adjust and all of that. And you know what? Yeah, okay, maybe it's going to take you that long to adjust to a defensive scheme or the way that your partners play. That doesn't change the way that you face contact. And
you make great points, because another kind of instance that we can kind of go back to, which is very similar to this, was when Dan Boyle was traded here, right? It didn't take him all that long to be integrated, right? And
Evander Kane.
Now let's talk about Evander Kane, though.
Oh shit! Here we go.
This is a guy that needs to step it up big time, and right now he's missing in action. And I don't know what's going on. It seems like he was moving a little bit better in game 3. Seems like he was moving a little bit better in game 4, but there is something clearly not right with him.
No, he might have a broken hand from the Chara fight. He might still be struggling over losing a child. We have no idea what's going on in his personal life, but that clearly does have an impact on your professional life. I don't care who you are. But Andy Man in the chat saying getting a huge check doesn't mean that you instantaneously adapt to another team when you're trying to fit in. I didn't say that. He is getting a fat check. He is a multiple Norris Trophy winner. When you're that talented, when you're getting that much of a payday, that means you're talented. Extremely. When you get a couple Norris trophies, that means you're extremely talented. When you have that much talent, it should not take you almost 2 months to fit into another team scheme. It's not like he went from playing hockey to playing softball. Like, he's literally playing the same sport. So that's my issue with it. When you've seen other players come in that, again, I look back at Evander Kane. I mean, literally flip from one system to another and fit in perfectly. Now, granted, defense, offense, totally different monsters, but still, it shouldn't take you 2 months when you're that. I would have assumed it would have taken somebody like Schlemko or John Scott longer to fit in, simply because they just don't see that much ice time. So that was my point with that. Do we see him for game 5 though? I mean, and that's a great question. Now? Do we see Karlsson for game 5? Which one? Of course you do. You're not, dude. Peter DeBoer has never been. That's been the whole thing since the end of time with this season. Is the fact that it doesn't matter. 70% Karlsson, 60% Karlsson is better than 110% Ryan or 150% Heed. Doesn't matter. Well, that's, doesn't matter. Does not matter. It's like, yeah, he's, Erik Karlsson, yeah, he's made some contributions. He, had his first 2 goals of 2019 in the last game, to open scoring and to get the winner. And during the first 2 rounds, yeah, he put up some points here and there, and that's great. That's awesome. And it clearly helped the team progress. But you could also go back and look and go, well, how many times was Erik Karlsson literally, like, you could see his ass in front of the goaltender or in front of Jones when the puck went by? Like, there's as many times as you can sit there and point at plays that Erik Karlsson either broke it out or scored. We could probably go back and look at those same games at every time the opponent scored and find that Erik Karlsson was part of the opposition scoring. Again, I've never looked at I've never seen a pickup for the Sharks that had so much just hullabaloo about, like, oh my God, this is the guy. Holy shit. Doug Wilson is a fucking genius. That they went after Tavares, and look, that didn't happen. But look what Doug Wilson pulled out of his back pocket. Genius, simply genius. And on paper, absolutely. But then you see Erik Karlsson, and you see time and time and time again him shy away from contact, him make a silly giveaway that somebody else has to cover. There's been at least 3 times in this series alone, Hurdle has covered for Erik Karlsson's give up that he's given away. And Hurdle, or it was an unforced giveaway. It was just a straight up bonehead move by EK65. As much as I hope that the Sharks win the Stanley Cup and EK65, his name ends up on that cup, as much as I wish for that, I also wish that EK65 is nowhere near the Sharks next season.
I just think that at the end of the season, whatever may happen, I think we're going to find out that Erik Karlsson basically tore his groin, and it's basically been left hanging there, and it's got a few fibers of muscle going through it, and that's about it.
What does your groin stop you from doing?
Skating.
Yeah, exactly. It stops you from skating hard, skating fast. It doesn't stop you from taking a hit to make a play.
Yes, it does, though. Every time you get hit, that's absorption through the legs, right? You're going to feel that regardless. And I think that's also why we're seeing Kane shy away from stuff. I think he probably broke his hand in the Reeves fight, and I think he's got something going on with his hip as well, because he has not looked.
Oh, no, we're talking about Karlsson, not Kane.
No, both. I think both have had hip/groin issues. I'm telling you, AJ, I think
I'm just saying, dude, I know what you mean with the whole groin thing, but when I've played sports, I've had like either hammies and there was one time I did have like a groin stretch, and yeah, it wasn't comfortable and it definitely slowed me down. It never stopped me from laying out a hit or absorbing a hit. Like, I might not have been able to put as much into a hit because I didn't have that launch from my legs because of the hammy or the groin pull, but I certainly never shied away from taking a hit because of my groin. I'm just saying, Erik Karlsson maybe they teach things different in Sweden, but for me, I didn't have a problem with it. Billiards are not a sport. Fuck you, Jackal.
AJ.
I definitely understand where you're coming from, AJ. I definitely understand you want to see the physicality, but for every Chris Pronger, there is a Nick Lidstrom. Nicholas Lidstrom was not a physical player. He used his stick, he used his positioning, and the guy was the greatest defenseman outside of Bobby Orr.
Insanely talented, insanely smart, but I have vivid memories of seeing him play against the Sharks, and this was back when the Sharks were a much more physical team because they weren't as talented as they are now. And I don't have any recollections of Lidstrom like shying away from contact. I don't have any memories of Lidstrom making a bad play because contact was going to be involved or him. When I see this repetitively from Erik Karlsson. The other thing too is there's not a whole lot of times where I remember Erik Karlsson sitting right in front of his own goalie as the puck was going by. Lidstrom was a far smarter player than EK65. Better positioning, better of know where it's, where the puck was going to be. Either way, and then Hackle saying Swedes aren't physical. Well, they're good at getting hit, evidently.
Ulf Samuelsson and Peter Forsberg want to say hi. Yeah. I agree.
They're great at getting hit, but it's okay, now here it comes. I knew this was coming. Jonathan said, "What sports did you play, AJ?" I played football and I played baseball growing up. Now, if I could have played hockey, if that would have been an option, yes, I would have played it. Unfortunately, that wasn't an option. So let's all just stop with the whole I played the game card. Give me a break, because a lot of people can actually look at a game without playing it and still be able to ascertain whether somebody is making an effort or not. I mean, eyes don't lie.
Oh boy. Well, I think we're gonna have to agree to disagree on this one. I completely understand where you're coming from, and I respect what you're saying. Because again, it is frustrating to see it. you know what? It's hella frustrating to see.
And you know what? If I was the only one saying this, I would literally look in the mirror and go, you know what? Maybe it's just me. Maybe I need to find the other side of this story. I need to read some other stuff. I need to look into it. But when I'm continually hearing from people that that like people that like respected media from other teams, whether it's reading on The Athletic, listening to NHL on Sirius, reading on other publications, it's not just me, and that's the whole thing that kind of galvanizes my outlook on this, is the fact that it's not just me. It literally, there are many people that sit there and go, Erik Karlsson is one of the most overrated defensemen to ever play the game. He is an offensive guy playing a defensive position. And again,
Erik Karlsson to forward. You hear to hear first, folks.
Yeah, no, it's simply what it is. Dude, and I said this with Drew, and Drew kind of agreed with me. Drew Remenda, I think he might know a little bit about hockey, and he pretty much agreed with me and said, yeah, that Erik Karlsson on offense, incredible. He can be very inventive. On defense, some days he's suspect. And just like I was saying earlier, his speed sometimes makes his numbers look better because of the speed that he has, because sometimes he will have a giveaway low in the defensive zone, but because he's so fast, he can outskate that mistake and get back in time. But he hasn't been able to do that with the injured groin.
Right, and I think that that's why everything is magnified, right? And I think that that's why you're keying in on the lack of physicality, because if you're not fast enough, then you got to be more physical. But he's not a physical player, so that's a tool that he doesn't have in his skill set. Look, we can talk about this till the cows come home. But suffice it to say, they need more from a lot of people.
No, I'm looking at the chat here, and I think this is fantastic. I haven't been on in like 3 shows, people chatting, where's AJ? Where's AJ? Where's AJ? And then I come on, and now it's, why is AJ on? We're losing viewers. Okay, so you know what? That's fantastic. It was great to see you, everybody. I guess I'll see you sometime next season. Good night.
Oh, and there goes AJ. Look, I mean, he's not wrong. He's not wrong, and you're searching for answers here. I don't want to put Erik Karlsson in that bucket, because the guy has got 2 Norrises in his back pocket, right? So he's got to have been doing something right, but clearly something is not right now. And I've said right a bajillion times, but again, it's just, what is the guy playing through? We don't know. Again, we got to look up and down the lineup, and now this is the time for the depth players to really bring it. This is the time when a Sorensen needs to get on the board. A LeBanc needs to get on the board. Melker Karlsson cannot just be left alone in front of Jordan Binnington and getting a crappy glove hand shot. I mean, the guy tried to fake, didn't happen. So then, you know what? Put it off the pad for a rebound. You got a guy coming crashing into the net. Try to jam play. The reluctance to play in the dirty areas really cost them in that first period, and the mental mistakes really caught up with them. So they've got to clean it up. Look, it's a clean slate now. We're all tied. That it's definitely not jump ship time, but it's definitely time to pull your head out of your asses and get the depth players going. Again, Melker Karlsson, LeBanc. Where is Marcus Sorensen? These are 3 guys that are insanely important to this team. Evander Kane, insanely important. Jonas Donskoy, I've loved his game so far. I don't have a problem with his game. Jumbo stepped it up. Pavelski, he doesn't seem right. He doesn't seem, like he seems a little timid. And so, Erik, I want to talk to you about this, because it seems like it's been forever since I've heard your voice.
Hi.
But is this a case of the Sharks really just getting ground down, or is it the fact that they're not committing to the body play because they are just worn out? Where do you what do you see this mismatch kind of coming from here?
You could say that they don't want to get hit because they take a lot of hits with the Vegas series, and then yes, Gen X, holy crap, Puckeye is actually here. Oh, jeez, yeah, no, but the thing is that when you get hit I mean, it's like, it wears you down, and you're going through a tough round one where they had 80 bajillion hits according to the Vegas hit counter. Then Colorado started to get a little more physical after their coach talked to Vegas. You saw the Blues starting to get things going a lot more often, especially early on, and I think that got off their game in game one. Uh, but yeah, you need to have the secondary scoring coming into play. Yes, is it great to see Logan Couture putting on an absolute yeoman's pace to get things done? I mean, only a few goals away from. I think I heard it today on the NHL Network how he's so close to breaking a record for most goals by a center in one playoff year, along on top of the goal scorers and such. But and like AJ saying in the chat here, nobody likes to get hit, but not liking and shying away from are not the same thing. Completely get it. Completely get it. And you have to be physical. It's the playoffs. It's more physical. It's more, it's not like the light check. No, it's more like a hard check in trying to make them feel pain. And sometimes
Sammy Blaze, right? Or Blase, whatever, however we want to pronounce that. But this is a guy that continually has been checking Justin Braun, and I feel so bad for Braun. Every time he goes back there, he gets some vicious kind of hit. Where the fuck, excuse my language, but where is Brendan Dillon laying the thunder on this guy? Where is Evander Kane literally knocking the lights out? You've got these St. Louis Blues who feel like they can go run around and ride roughshod on the Sharks players. Again, Hurdle, he's getting beat and ground out there. I mean, look, if you're playing hurt, so be it, but that doesn't mean that you just stop putting the body out there for your fellow players. And I saw Evander Kane, Thornton said something to him that lit him up because he went out and he went out and did a number on Pietrangelo a couple of different times on that shift after Jumbo gave him a tongue lashing. So, again, it's just not buying into the physical play that they need to adjust to in this St. Louis series.
And James Abel makes another good point. If the Sharks were to advance, who thinks Marchand isn't going to light these guys up with body shots?
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. And he's got, I mean, everybody's got a book on where everybody's injured. That little bastard is gonna go for where they're hurt. I mean, that's just the way that he plays. And you know what? The Sharks have been very gentlemanly, and it's the way that they've always played. Prior to, I guess, or since Nolan left, basically, and they need to get a little bit of jam, a little bit of more dirtiness into their play, because right now we're seeing that that's kind of being allowed. So they need to adjust to that, and they need to dish it. They can't be taking it as much as they've been taking it.
And that's the thing, you got to take it. And that's a huge thing. John, thank you for the donation, but the early Sunday start time concerns me. We were horrible all season in matinees, except for Teal Town USA Day at the Tank, which has happened to be an OT win against the Blues. So,
I mean, and Sanchez bringing up a great point. Rafi Torres, when he was on the ice, I mean, nobody was thinking about doing that, right?
So in that case, does that mean we get Haley back in the lineup for Game 5?
Oh God!
It's one of those things, though. If we're needing somebody to dish out some hits, there's that one. Hot Wheels 84. Dylan hasn't been the same since getting dressed down by EK65. I don't think he's happy out there. And
I think he's hurt.
he might be hurt, and he struggled a little bit tonight, essentially taking 3 penalties: the holding the stick, which was an iffy one, the one 435 in the third, the high sticking, which I loved how it hit the jersey because it made the jersey kind of flip, but Maroon looked like he got in the nose.
Yeah.
And then the tough part was that he was trying to help out the change during that line change, and that ends up being a too many men on the ice call, or as we like to call it from via Shalana Goldman, hella dudes on the frozen pond. So
Yeah. So quickly, I think people are asking, well, does that mean everybody's hurt? I think
if they aren't hurt, then I'd be shocked.
Yeah, right, exactly, and exactly. So again, game 5, I really need to see some more from the depth players. And I really, it's time to start dishing, because when they got to their game, when they were, having that high density forecheck. Time. So that they have the talent to do it. They have the personnel. It's just the will to execute it now. And I know that they're getting really discouraged at times. I know that they feel like breaks are not going their way and stuff like that. But look, every time they get to their game plan, they are able to dictate play. And I think that that's probably what's the most frustrating thing for all of us to see is the talent is there. We all see it. I mean, we all see that this team, talent-wise, is probably the best left standing. But it really is that will, and will the Sharks will themselves past the Blues?
Yeah, but you talk about the secondary scoring, you talk about freaking LeBanc, you talk about Sorensen, heck, Donskoy, Goodrow. There's also Evander Kane. Where has he been?
Right.
I mean, I think he's only got like a goal and 2 assists since the Avalanche series. And, that's the thing. Some people were mentioning in the chat, I think even Kevin mentioned it earlier. Do you flip Ryan for Heed if Carlson's out? Or do you add Carlson in and keep Heed in and go 7 defensemen? Especially since we've been using, for the third period, not the fourth line, not as much. Anthony Sanchez saying in here, I'll tell you what the problem is with the Sharks. They need to play 6 D-men and not 5 D-men. Our D is getting tired, and that's the other thing.
You know what? I mean, this. I know that we continually have this argument and debate, and we continually think that it is not getting anywhere. But from what I'm seeing from the forwards right now, dare I say, double shifting Burns as a forward and as a defenseman doing it in the same game. Because I don't know if you saw his rush tonight, his bull rush to the front of the net. But boy, howdy, that guy looked possessed going to the front of the net. And if you can get him like that going, that's the kind of jam that they need up front. And I know we will, it's a fool's errand to talk about this, but it might be a secret weapon that they might need to deploy. There might need to be some kind of out of the box thinking here. So that whether that is dressing 7 D-men and then double shifting Burns, on our right wing side, maybe.
But that's the thing is that when we do that, that's kind of out of their norm. It's not their ammo, and it almost shows a little bit of a sign of desperation. But I guess what you're trying to break up, and NHL Trump says break up the Kane Pavelski line. Do you
They did
try? Yeah, they did that a little bit there. I wonder if you put Kane with Jumbo, and move up. I don't know,
Well,
maybe
you know
go
what?
Sorensen, but Sorensen struggled too. So that's the other thing.
And, and you bring up a great point, because now that I'm thinking about it, maybe because we were talking a little bit about reuniting the super line of Hurdle, Couture, and Meyer. Put those three together, and then put back the Donkey Kane Pav line, which
Right.
was really good last season. And you keep Thornton with LeBanc, and I want to see Sorensen back up with him. But then you do have some depth kind of rolling down. Maybe that's what they need to do, because honestly, right now, Hurdle's getting shut down. He needs to draw away from Pietrangelo, and needs to draw away from Ryan O'Reilly, because they are eating his lunch.
Yep. But that's the thing. There's going to be matchups that would happen, and that's where you need your depth to come into play. Where you have, okay, they're shutting down Hurdle. Well, look, Logan Couture stepped it up big time. Carlson played phenomenal assist wise in the Vegas series and a little bit of the Colorado series. They shut him down. Burns started to step up. So there's kind of that, okay, when they're getting shut down here, well, there should be an opportunity for somebody else to hit that and go. And that's what they have to do. It's the next guy up. I mean, Gus Nyquist, I love you, man. You're wearing the great number, but you gotta find a way to get it done. Just not put it in the other team. That
Well,
Anthony Sanchez, Nyquist with Jumbo, perhaps.
Gus Nyquist got one shot on goal tonight. I mean, Kevin LeBanc, 0 shots on goal tonight. I mean, when
Evander Kane, three shots on goal, 7 hits.
Yeah, I mean, when Melker Karlsson's got more shots on goal than you, that should be screaming something to you, Mr. Nyquist. I mean, come on now. And he's got a hell of a shot, too. I love his slapper. I love Gus's slapper. I know that he's more of a playmaking guy, but you know what? At this point, I'm praying for goals. And they need to go back to what worked in that first game, which was the east-west cross-ice passes on Binnington, because that's the only way you're getting goals in on him. Because if you go straight bull rush, he's stopping that every day, twice on Sundays. But you know what? When you get him moving laterally, you make him look like a complete fool. You really do. So they need to go back to that. So for me, the things that I'm looking for in Game 5 is get back to the lateral passes to make Binnington move laterally, get the depth woken up somehow, and really tighten down in the defensive zone. I think those are the 3 keys to the game for me going into Game 5. And if you can do that 5-on-5, we don't even have to worry about the power play right now.
But the power play would be huge too.
Oh, yeah, sure. That would wake up at any time, it'd be great now.
And to be honest, the 2 things that have changed from 3 years ago when these 2 teams played. Well, number 1, they were shutting down Tarasenko. Tarasenko only had 2 goals in games in like the final half of Game 6 against the Sharks. Tarasenko has done a great job helping out tonight. He's caused some problems. He had another assist tonight on the Bozak power play goal.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing too, is the Sharks were lights out on the power play that entire postseason up until the Pittsburgh series. So that's the big one.
Yeah, A012345. I mean, the voice of reason. Yeah, we got the split in St. Louis, and we got home ice back. So you know what? Good on the boys, but I think it's a little. I think we're looking at the trends now as being a little, troubling to look at, and I think that's what we're most concerned about. Look, going into Game 5, if we beat them, blow out the door 6-0, and hopefully that's what happens. Then I think we can start to say, okay, the trends are reversing a little bit. But, basically the Sharks had to squeak out with the slightest margins of error one game in St. Louis. I think this is a different beast of a team. quite frankly, Erik. I mean, it really does. It just seems like this team is a lot more resilient than the one that we faced in 2016 for whatever reason.
I agree. I agree. But yeah, crashing the net, Anthony Sanchez, making life miserable for St. Louis. Absolutely. But the Anthony, and I'm sorry if I'm going to get this wrong. Puck Riots, it says screw the split, had to be greedy, put these guys on edge, opportunity missed. And I completely agree, because if the Sharks pull this one out, I will tell you right now, the Shark Tank would have been nuts that whole game 5 for a chance to close out the series at home.
Game 2 was the missed opportunity for me. And I think that's the other thing that I'm really concerned about, is the fact that they're not executing on points in time when they could, take a stranglehold on the series. That, I think, to me, that's another red flag, that you're not capitalizing on the opportunities that you've been given. And that 2-goal performance by Logan was a waste. It was a wasted effort. It seemed like he was dragging the team along, and that was really unfortunate. So, you were given a game in St. Louis, and tonight there was ample opportunities to get back into this game, but it just couldn't do it. So, that's the disturbing part.
And that's the tough part, because you did get that one game. You could get greedy, get that second game, and have a chance to close out and get some much needed rest. As well, we'll find out in the wraparound that you're going to have you could have a whole week. Instead, you're going to be traveling again and maybe have a few days before potentially playing for the Stanley Cup. Overall tonight, let's put on bow on this one. Shots 30-22 in favor of San Jose. Face-offs, the Blues took that one over late, 54-46 in that one. Each team had a power play goal. The Sharks went 1 for 3. The Blues went 1 for 4. Hits 29-15 in favor of the Blues. Blocked shots, and this one's a key one, 21-8 in favor of the Blues there. And giveaways, 11-9 in favor of the Sharks on that one. Burns had 26-46 ice time tonight. Erik Karlsson, essentially benched for since 9:24 remaining, and he came out with about 2 minutes to go, 25:09. Either there could be an injury, there could be something going on. I noticed, and I mentioned it, Joachim Ryan got some more ice time in the third period than I'm usually seeing.
He had almost a whole 9 minutes.
Yeah. Martin Jones, 20 of 22 for a 909 save percentage in that one. Jordan Bennington, 29 of 30 with a 967 save. To say, Al Martinet in our chat, did EK65 go down with an injury? Remains to be seen, but let's be honest. Are they going to say something? Likely not. It'll just depend on if he's out there for warmups at 11:30 on Sunday. So,
yep.
All right. With that, Landi, is it time?
Yeah, it's time. Let's do a quickie reach around, because Landy's got to get something to eat. He's hungry.
What? No, you can hang in there. Come on now. Come on now.
All right. Let's get this reach around going.
It's wraparound. Really, there aren't many games to talk about, because the Boston Bruins finished off those bunch of jerks last night in a 4-game sweep. They will now have over a week to decide whether it's going to be rest for the Stanley Cup final. Yeah, and the schedule came out today or it's literally at the end of this game for the Cup final. The Cup final will begin on Monday, May 27th. All games will begin at 5 p.m. So
Memorial Day. So there you go.
So it's similar to what the Sharks did with when they went into the Cup final on in 2016. They played on Memorial Day for Game 1. So that is your wraparound in the AHL. I recall that the Charlotte Checkers are playing the Eastern Conference Final, and the San Diego Gulls are taking on the Chicago Wolves in the Western Conference Final in the AHL. So that is your quick wrap around for the evening.
Quick and dirty reach around.
My God, you are something else.
Hey, I have to have some kind of fun, right? Because today was kind of like, ugh.
But here's the thing. It's 2-2.
Right.
It's a best of 3, and we have home ice. And this, unfortunately, will be the last time the Sharks have home ice for the rest of the postseason. So you have Game 5 Sunday at noon. That will be on your local NBC station. Locally out here in the Bay Area, it'll be KNTV Channel 11, or in Sacramento on KCRA Channel 3, as opposed to the NBCSN or NBC Sports California. So be on the lookout for that. In case you missed anything or you want to watch this again, you can check this out at tealtownusa.com or your favorite podcatcher, whether it's iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel where we drop a bunch of goodies in here. We want to thank the 1,559 subscribers joining us, and we do this after every single game, so do us a favor. If you aren't new already, hit that subscribe button. If you're new to the chat, by all means, say hi. We don't bite too much. I won't think,
we'll just throw salt in the wound,
and it's okay. So, Landi, your final thoughts and where the people can find you.
Yeah, my final thoughts are, let's go sign that change petition to get Game of Thrones season 8 rewritten and redone, right? Almost 1 million people. As far as the game goes, I'm looking for the supporting cast and crew to come through. Great segue. You can use my first name, that's Erik, spelled the right way with a K. My last name, Landi. On all the social media garbage, I'll be there. I'll be waiting for whoever decides to follow.
You can follow me at Twitter at PuckGuy14, on the Instagram as well at PuckGuy14. You can always check us out at tealtownusa on the Twitter, on the Instagram. AJ does a phenomenal job with the pregame report. A lot of sweat and dedication on that one. And of course, tealtownusa.com for all that fun stuff. So with that, we will be back with you following Game 5 of the Sharks and Blues. That again, that's at noon. So we'll be on roughly a little before 3 o'clock in some form of us. And of course, it'll be Teal Town After Dark. Well, I think more like Teal Town Afternoon Delight, most likely we'll have to call it. But we'll be back with you for then. And until then, I want to thank everyone for watching. And until then, keep it real. Keep it teal. Keep it real teal. You have a great night, everyone.
Hey, I didn't screw it up.